The government's secret studies into Brexit's impact on Bristol's main employment sectors have been compared to a GCSE student Cgrade piece of research. Bristol MP Thangam Debbonaire has torn in two the sectoral analysis carried out by Brexit Secretary David Davis's department, saying they told MPs, the only people allowed to read them, nothing more than a Google search would have done. The sectoral reports, as ministers are calling them, are available to read in tightly controlled circumstances in a secured room in a building on Whitehall. The Department for Exiting the European Union DExEU was forced to grant access after a Labour motion insisting on it was passed in Parliament last month. Scott Cato, the South West Green MEP and former Bristol West MP candidate, had been threatening to take the government to court over their attempts to keep the information secret. MPs wanting to read the 850 pages of reports have to book 1-hour slots, hand in their mobile phones and are only allowed a pen and paper to take notes. MPs are only allowed to read the Brexit reports under strict supervision. They are not allowed to photocopy, scan a copy in any way, according to the instructions given to them, and are accompanied at all times as they read the reports. A letter sent to all MPs by junior Brexit Minister Robin Walker says, any unauthorised disclosure of the documents or information contained within them is strictly prohibited. Due to those rules, Ms Debbonaire was not allowed to tell the Bristol Post what is contained in the reports, but the Labour MP was allowed to say what is not in them, according to rules read out to her. Ms Debbonaire, explaining how thin the Brexit evidence was, says she has read a third of the papers, contained in 2 Leverage files, in only 2 sittings. Seriously, you wouldn't get an A grade for this if you were submitting it as GCSE research. You might get a C, said the Bristol West MP. Any teacher looking at this would say, you've just Googled the answers for this. They are not doing anything more than describing what exists on Wikipedia or other information from factual deposits, such as the Office for National Statistics reports. Brexit Secretary David Davis MP, it looks like a rush job. There are things that are missing that you would expect to be in there. Mr Davis told MPs earlier this year that sectoral analysis was being conducted in excruciating detail for nearly 60 UK sectors, with officials looking at Brexit's regional effect. But 2 weeks ago, appearing in front of the Brexit Committee, he said no impact assessments existed on how Brexit could affect the UK's core industries, adding that economic forecasts do not work. Ms Debbonaire, an opposition whip in the Commons, said she struggled to see how Mr Davis had enough information at his disposal for EU trade talks if the sectoral analyses should read were all the cabinet minister had to work with. In the section about higher education, she said there was no mention of how Bristol's universities would be able to work with their European counterparts or access funding after Brexit. Key questions posed by the UK's divorce from Brussels. The EU Council, a meeting of the leaders of EU member states, agreed on Friday that trade talks between the UK and EU can start in the new year after questions around EU citizens, the divorce payment and the Irish border were settled in principle. MP Thangam Debbonaire says the report does not go into enough detail on how Bristol University could be affected by Brexit. If I was David Davis and I was negotiating with the EU, I would want to know what the impact would be and to see some modelling. I don't know how ministers are answering questions about the Brexit impact if this is all they have, said Ms Debbonaire. David Davis might be saying that he doesn't want to call them impact assessments, but why hasn't he done them? It is the lack of impact assessments that is the big story. No matter if you voted Leave or Remain, no one in Bristol that I have met wanted us just to jump off the diving board without knowing what might be waiting for us at the bottom. A DExEU spokesman said the reports shared with MPs were not exhaustive, and that preparations for Brexit and the upcoming trade talks were continuing. The Committee on Exiting the EU has confirmed that the government's response has complied with the terms of a motion of November 1 to provide this information, the departmental spokesman said. Our overall programme of work is comprehensive, thorough and is continuously updated. This sectoral analysis is simply one part of it. It is not exhaustive, and it is not the final say on any of these issues. Ms Debbonaire is scheduled for a third reading session this week, to further investigate what the reports have to say on higher education, the creative industries and aerospace. Kerry McCarthy, Labour MP for Bristol East, confirmed she plans to read up on food prices before Parliament breaks for Christmas on Thursday.